So I'm sort of sorry, but somewhat not sorry, to say that this is actually not the video that you're going to watch. If you want to see something like that, those happy videos and stuff, click the link in the description below.
So anyways, happy today. So in this video we're going to be showing you a lot of theories and other things like that, and a series of unfortunate events here on out referred to as ASOUE because it's faster and saves time. So if you've never read the series before, or you've only seen the movie, or you have no idea what we're talking about, get out or click right here just for fun. It's a random video. And so I guess if you do want to watch this video all the way through to the end, I guess I'd just say have read all of the ASOUE at least once, and you can kind of understand the plot and give a summary of it.
So, enough talk. Let's get down to business.
This whole thing is kind of us talking.
Oh yeah!
So if you don't enjoy people talking for however long this is, leave.
So if you've read this series at least once, then you probably know that there's a lot of mysteries in it. And so we'll try our best to solve those mysteries and tell you our theories.
So I've read the series 5 times, he's read it 4 times, so we're not amateurs. We know our stuff. I have a lot of things written down in here about it, and so in this video we're going to do our best to attempt to answer all those theories and questions and everything else.
Are you?
Okay, that was weird. Yeah,
We'll do that.
we're going to do that.
Okay.
So, theories.
So we'll tell you 13 of our theories. We'll try and whip them off as fast as we can, so this isn't insanely long. So the first one, the Immortality Theory. This one's actually, it does have a little bit of merit to it. It's the theory that some of the characters, like Lebanese Ticket and Kit Snicket and Jack Snicket, are hundreds of years old and just seem to never die. So it kind of makes a little bit of sense if you're reading it. You take some of the things like where it says about William Shakespeare, William Congreve, things like that, C.M. Cornbluth. It kind of makes sense in some aspects. In fact, in the penultimate peril, Dewey actually does say something like, one can live for really long periods of time if they're unafraid of change, or something like that. So it kind of does make a little bit of sense, but there are some things that sort of debunk it, because in All the Wrong Questions, which takes place, I don't know, probably 20 to 30 years before the main series, Lebanese Ticket is 13, almost, he's 12, so that would make him, he's not hundreds of years old, so it makes some sense, but not completely. It's something to look into a little further.
Phil is dead. So as we all know, Phil is that optimist who appears in the 4th book and, spoiler alert, 11th book. That's 11 right there. And some people say that he's dead, and I mean, I guess it could possibly be true because Kit, like, she never says anything about Phil in the end of the end. So it's a pretty good theory, but that's pretty much the only evidence there is. So, I mean, I guess you can think about it, and it's up to you. What do you think? Comment below.
So, probably the most controversial theory out there is quickly Quagmire line. So, there's a lot of points. I don't think we have the time to go into all of them. I do have answers to them, but I'll just use the biggest point, that his timeline doesn't match up with when Isadora said they've been in the orphan's shack for 3 semesters. So, a semester is 75 to 90 days, and at Proof Rock Prep, their school calendar is kind of weird because they still go on Saturdays and Sundays. So I think this would be in terms of days. So people say, oh, between the end of the reptile room and the beginning of the austere academy, it couldn't have been any more than a month. I have actually found out that there are full moons mentioned 3 times, and then a little bit after that, and I've come to the conclusion of about 74 days. A semester, 75 days, that's obviously not 3. Here's what Duncan and Isadora came in the middle of the 2nd one, and are in the middle of the 3rd one. That semester, even though it's only 1 semester, they're calling it 2. The 3rd one, I think they just misspoke.
Why is there a passageway between 667 Dark Avenue and the Baudelaire Mansion? Now this one is a bit confusing, and it's like extremely random, but what I think is that constantly throughout the book series, you can kind of tell that Beecher stole the sugar bowl from Esme, which we get into what that is and who has it later. I think there's a passageway because that is how they burnt down their home. Because Esme is really upset that Beatrice took her sugar bowl, and Beatrice is the Baudelaire's mom. So she had her associates and Count Olaf dig a passageway between 667 Dark Avenue to the Baudelaire mansion so they could burn it down to get revenge.
What is the Great Unknown? So, according to a lot of fans, it's a sea monster because of what you get from all the wrong questions. Now, I am going to say I have not read Why Is This Night Different from All Other Nights before anything else, so I would still think that this Great Unknown would just be a submarine version of the Abominating Beast sea monster if it was actually real, which he says it's not, but I haven't read the fourth one. So, I think it was just a submarine because Olaf says we don't want to be caught on that sonar. When Lebanese Ticket and Captain Wittersons and all those people are avoiding telling anyone about it, I think that's because that may be their actual last safe place. It's like a volunteer submarine and they don't want anyone to know about it in case it slips from someone. So I think when everyone got swallowed up, that's why they took their chances with it, because they knew what it was.
Ike's mom was in Ishmael's class. Now, if you haven't read the end yet, you probably won't understand this theory, and it'll kind of be a spoiler alert. But Ishmael is a guy who they meet in the end, which you know that already, unless you haven't read it. So in The Wide Window, Aunt Josephine mentions that her mother-in-law had one eyebrow and only one ear. And in the end, Ishmael mentions that someone in his class had one eyebrow and due to an accident in her father's laboratory, only one ear.
This also kind of does filter in with the Immortality Theory, Ishmael being like 100 or something. Do the Baudelaires have a religion? So I think it's impossible for anyone not to. You have to believe in something.
Because like if I don't believe in the world, then like I'm obviously here. So it doesn't make any sense. Everyone has a religion, which is pretty much a belief.
So a lot of people think they're Jews because Daniel Handler says that they're Jews. He actually doesn't say that they're Jewish. He says, I think they're Jewish, because he says he was Jewish. He's not. He's a secular atheist.
But in The Wide Window, Aunt Josephine mentions, it's nice to think of my husband someplace very hot, don't you think? Yes, I do, Violet said. It is very nice. She swallowed. She wanted to say something else to Aunt Josephine, but when you have only known someone for a few hours, it's very difficult to know what they would like to hear. So this is possibly proof that they could be Christian, possibly wanting to witness to Aunt Josephine, because like when you die and you go someplace hot, that's like not good.
Kind of, yeah.
It's
the place of weeping and gnashing of teeth.
So that's proof right there that they could possibly be Christian. So earlier I mentioned that we would get to the sugar bowl, and obviously now that I bring it up, you're thinking, oh, he's gonna get to the sugar bowl. Wrong. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so the sugar bowl. The sugar bowl is a confusing thing. We honestly don't know why it's so important. I don't know what's in it. Okay, no one does. It doesn't give that much proof. Unless you're really smarter than I am, which is not impossible. I do know who has the sugar bowl. In the penultimate peril, it says, I do know who this man was, and even the small item that sat in the passenger seat still damp from its hiding place. If you remember, the sugar bowl fell into the pond. So I think this guy retrieved it and put it in his taxi, which was the damp thing in its hiding place. But how he describes what was in the taxi was way too descriptive. So I think that the guy was actually Lebanese Ticket, and he's just like hiding out writing this stuff, so no one would know where it is because no one knows where he is. So that's my theory.
So what happens after the end?
This. That's a poster.
Okay, the boat sinks. Well, it crashes into.
This is a boat. This is a poster from.
Beatrice.
This is the Beatrice letters. From the Beatrice letters.
So this is obviously you can tell it crashed on some rocks, and we do know they survived.
Glasses,
I know the whisk, the glasses. I know it's torn to shreds kind of. They did survive though because Sonny has a cooking show, and Violet and Krauss regret doing things in the reptile room years later. So they did survive that thing. And
some of the stuff washed up here at Cave Bassetier. It's a cave, I think it's called Bassetier, which is actually an anagram of Beatrice. So what happened after the end? The boat crashed into a rock, And if you read the Beatrice letters, it's actually kind of interesting. You can
It's
sort of,
really hard to follow. It is one of the most confusing books anyone has ever written, I'll say that.
but you can sort of tell that the young Beatrice, like the Snicket's, Beatrice Snicket, and they were separated from Beatrice Snicket, and then the boat crashed in. That's pretty much all I know. That's pretty much all I remember from there.
Well, I know more.
Um,
So there, I mean, a lot of this stuff is hard to tell. I don't really have anywhere I could show you like where it specifically says these things. It's kind of just my opinion personally. But there are a couple things like in the Bad Beginning Rare Edition, page 187 of the end, which says something like that the Quagmires were actually still alive. This is after they got swallowed by the Great Unknown. So it's kind of sketchy. I think on the way back the boat crashed, and maybe the Great Unknown found them, and the Quagmires were inside along with everyone else. So I think they probably, after the boat crashed, like they were swimming for a while or something, and I don't know, were found by the Great Unknown, and the Quagmires were inside, and everyone else, I don't know.
It says that they're in a very dark and damp place at the moment on page 187. So definitely check that out if you have the book.
And in the next chapter, on the next page, okay, technically the next 2 pages, Lebanese Ticket explains the phrase about being in the dark as like figurative or literal. So yeah, I think they probably eventually did see the Quagmires again, and I think Beatrice got separated from them after a couple years, and yeah, this one, it's just a matter of opinion, so have fun with it.
What do you think? Comment below and tell us. That's the second time we've asked you that.
So this one I think is personally bogus.
Bogus! Me too, actually.
Some people think Mr. Poe is a woman. Yeah, sure, and he has a wife and kids. I don't, but they're one of the probably their biggest evidence is like something like he's hiding something in his hat. It says in the Rare Edition. Well, in the end, it says that he was hiding adoption papers in his hat, and other than that, there's really not anything except for the nameless novel drawing. But I don't really know what that is. But still, I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
And speaking of the Poe family, I think Polly Poe actually might have been Polly Partial from All the Wrong Questions series.
So in the 9th and 10th books, there are letters that Lebanese Ticket writes directly to Kit Snicket, and this doesn't really make any sense because it's like if it's supposed to be years after it happens, she would be dead and he would know that by now. But there is a theory, I did not make this one up, I found it online. It actually makes kind of a lot of sense. Lebanese Ticket was like maybe a couple books behind, like when book 4 was happening, he was writing book 1. And it kind of went that way. So by the time he was like writing the 9th and 10th books, he wrote those letters in there. And the first, like those were just like the really rough drafts, and those were sent to VFD. And later, like years later, they were published and became the books that are sitting here on this table. So it's kind of a little confusing, but if you think about it, it actually does make sense and clears up a lot of the questions. So another theory, this one's me blabbering on again. Is about the poison darts and the theory that the Baudelaire parents killed Count Olaf's parents with poison darts.
And there's a reference to it on page 9 and page 211 of the Penultimate Peril.
And there's a couple other places as well. And this one, it's pretty much 100% confirmed, because there's nothing else that really says otherwise. So, not much to say for that one. That's all for theories. Let's go on to another section now.